Awesome. Okay, well, we'll start with you just share a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Andrew Hopgood. Everyone knows me as Hop. I work at Welltech. I lecture addictions. It's been an interesting life. It's the ironic thing I think about my life is I'm the opposite of what I set out to be in the beginning.
In what way?
So, you know, when I was about 10 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, you know, I sprayed my bike flat black and my number plate, my racing number plate was 13 and I just wanted to be a bikie.
Oh.
That was my goal. I just wanted to be a bikie. My uncle raced Nortons and Triumphs and everything down the South Island, so I grew up around motorbikes, but he wasn't a bikie. But he would throw me on the shoulders and look, Andy, you know, Ricey's, he'd say, Ricey's, which are the snap, crackle and pop of the old Triumphs back in the day. And so I'd get excited when bikies went past. And that's what I aspired to be, was a bikie. So, yeah, it's been an interesting life, I'll say that. I lecture addictions for Welltech. I'm married, I've just had a baby, she's 5 weeks old. I have a 30-year-old daughter who possibly saved my life.
Wow.
Just by being her. It's been a really, really interesting life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about
yes,
it.
Yes.
And actually, just on that, what makes you want to share your story with us today?
Well, I was watching Tanya and Justin last night.
Yeah.
And it brought a couple of tears to my eyes, and I was their clinician, and just the way you do it, I really like how you do this, you know. I fired Niz a call, a message, and went, hey, that was really, really powerful, and he said, do you want to do it? And I'm like, well, you know, why do I want to do this? Because I want everyone to catch what I've got. That's why I want to do this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So where does your journey with addiction begin?
It really begins, if I want to do this right, it begins at the beginning. I was born on the 3rd of September 1972. In those days, I'm adopted.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you're adopted, you lose your whakapapa. When you change families, or the DNA, that it's gone. Our story, it's gone. You're brought into a house with loving people who provide for you and they love you, and you're considered part of the family. But their temperaments and their responses to things, and it's different to yours. You know, so I grew up. So when I was adopted in 1972, it was said that the baby that's been adopted out isn't to form a secure attachment to the birth mother. So as soon as I was born and that cord was cut, I was taken from my birth mother and I was put in a room, and I was fed and I was changed, but I was not nurtured for 3 weeks. And because I was not to form an attachment to anyone bar my adopted parents. So that first 3 weeks of my life, I wasn't nurtured.
Wow.
Right? Now, you might go, oh, but you don't remember that, and that's true. However, we do remember the emotions that go with that. They're hardwired into us.
Yeah.
You know, as we all know nowadays, you know, that first hour of your life, that first week of your life, that first year of your life is the most important. So there was already that. But then to further that, my mother, I love her dearly, okay? So let's not get that wrong. You know, I love my mum. May she rest in peace. The last 10 years with my mother was just absolutely wonderful. But she had her own mental health issues. I presented a bit of a challenge for mum. She had a son and a daughter, so I've got an older brother and sister. I heard most of my life that she regretted adopting me. My earliest memory is of sitting on a suitcase at the end of our driveway in Dunedin. Now, we moved up here when I was 4, and I was sitting on my suitcase waiting for an ambulance to come and pick me up, because that's what I believe, that's what my mother told me, and I believed was going to happen. She was sending me back. So there's this thing that I later on learnt when I was studying psychology called anome, A-N-O-M-E, and it's the feeling of not belonging.
Oh, yeah.
And as we know, human beings are pack animals. We need to attach, we need to belong. And if we don't attach to someone, we'll attach to something, and that's where addiction comes from. So I grew up in a family that are physically bigger than me and mentally different than me. So my life, my early life, I'd describe as a goldfish in a goldfish bowl. So I'm there, I'm in the room, I can hear everyone, I can see everyone, I'm a part of something, but I'm not a part of it. I don't belong here. It doesn't feel right. And that's how I felt growing up. My mum and dad, they grew up in the Depression. Food was precious. I later learnt that in my birth family there were eating disorders, addiction and anxiety right through my DNA.
Wow.
But of course that didn't come when they adopted me. My parents weren't told that. So I didn't really warm to food. So my mum would force feed me. She'd put my head in between her knees and she would ram, I'll never have a Brussels sprout again. She would ram things like Brussels sprouts down my mouth, hold it shut, hold my nose until I swallowed, all the while going, I wish I'd never adopted you, nothing but a hassle, I wish you were like the other kids, I want to send you back. So food became my weapon of choice. Any attention's good attention, right? So I just wouldn't eat, and then I'd get attention from mum. So I learned, so I have a very unhealthy relationship with food. Food today still bores me. I get bored of food. If I could get away with not eating, I will. So as we know, with lack of nutrition, lack of food comes anger and temperament and concentration. So I was about 12 or 13, and there's some black power kids at my school, and they were poor kids from Nio, and I grew up in a quite a, not a well-off family, but a very comfortable family, and my mum, she would pack my lunch box and hope that I would eat, so I would swap my lunch with some of these black power kids at school, and they would give me a couple of joints.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my first joint, I was happy. No more nausea, from not eating. But of course, I didn't think at 13 or 12, oh, no more nausea. This is good. I just noticed the medicinal benefits, right? Like we do. We don't wake up one morning and go, fuck, I'm going to be an addict.
Yeah.
We self-medicate. So I started smoking dope, and it was good. When I was hungry, I'd smoke a joint, no more nausea, carry on. I left home when I was about 15 or 16, and as soon as I could, I was out of there, man. And I was flatting in Fitzpatrick Street in Johnsonville with a few likely lads, and some gang members, some bikies moved in next door. And I remember, I was having a few spots over the Element, and holy shit, there's this fucking bikies, like that's cool, So I jumped the fence, introduced myself, buy a bit of wacky backy off them, and they introduced me to speed.
Oh, yeah.
So now that's cool, So now with speed, I don't feel like eating. And with the dope to mask the nausea, chemical breakfast, lunch, tea, don't have to eat. This is fucking awesome, So that's where it started. By the time I think I was so 2000, I would have been about 28, 29, 28. I'd burnt a septum and burnt a hole in my septum. If I got angry, blood nose. If I got too hot, blood nose. The temperature change, blood nose, you know. And my GP, and he's like, mate, you've got to stop putting shit up your nose, you know, and don't know what you're talking about, doc, you know. And he's like, well, we're not operating until you do. And then I stopped off and saw a mate one day at Upper Hutt, and he says, hey, Hop, try this. And there was a literal bowl of freshly cooked methamphetamine crystals.
Fuck.
And it was, I don't know if you remember or not, but it was pink. It was pink, you know. And it was like, holy shit, what's that? He goes, it's just speed, mate. It's the same as this, but you smoke it. Oh, fuck, that'll save my septum. And then I could get that fixed. So I started smoking meth from that day. Before, I was snorting about 1.5 grams, 2 grams a day of speed, amphetamines. Mate, this methamphetamine was a whole new deal. So that ramped up. That ramped up. You know, gram a day easy in no time. I thought I was clever, and I could maintain a high, you know, so there were times in the day, like you would have lunch and tea, I'd have a pipe and a joint, and so I'd maintain that high. In the weekends, I'd go over and fry myself every now and again, but I was kind of functioning. I was running my own pita bread franchise at that time, and so I was functioning. Until it wasn't. So that's when it became an issue. 2005, you know, my partner at the time, you know, we tend to shit. She left. Tip Top Bread had taken over my pita bread franchise. My partner left. I was in a court battle, and the wheels fell off, man. The wheels fell off.
Bottom?
Yeah. I you know, I thought that this has got to stop, man. You know, and so I kind of decided that I'd go and stay with a mate up at Morrinsville. Mate Todd, who's just a bloody good man. My God, one of my gods. I've got 3 god kids, and he's got one of them, and he was on a farm, and he's like, so I went up there. But you remember, guys, in 2005, no one had done this before. No one had gotten off meth. So I'm at this guy's house, you know, and he's a hard man, and I'm feeling these emotions I've never felt. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't fucking eat. You know, like major depression, you know, and even though he said he understood, I knew he didn't understand. No one understood. Like, you couldn't read. You couldn't jump on the net and look withdrawals to methamphetamine up. There was no one you could ring. No one knew, you know. And all honesty, I thought I was broken, man. Like I thought I was broken. I thought, this is it, you know. So I thought, well, jump back in the car. Didn't even say goodbye. I just left at 3 o'clock one morning, back down to Wellington and to Paparam, and I had some vehicles stored at someone's shed. A friend of mine emptied my house for me and put my vehicles into storage, and I'd never met this guy, so I showed up to get my gear, you know, and I walk in, and they're all on it, you know, so I just walked straight in on it, you know, and I, hey, fuck, I'm into it. I didn't leave his house for about 4 months. And something happened there one day. It was pretty full on. Defenders were called, and so we were at war, you know, and so oh fuck, I didn't sign up for this, you know. So I got out of there one night at about midnight, and I got out and I was driving down the road, and it fucking dawned on me I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there was there was nowhere to go. I didn't have any friends anymore, you know, because they were still on it, and because I disappeared, the rumour mill was going, and I'd nowhere to go, and what was worse, I'd nowhere to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember that moment. I can fucking feel it right now, of pulling over and just that epiphany of I've got nowhere to be, man, and nowhere to go. Like, and I grew up, as I explained, with a sense of not belonging and abandonment. And guys, if ever of you, you know, you think, you know, I overreacted to that situation. Well, maybe you didn't. Maybe that situation brought out the emotions that you felt when you were little, because we store that shit, you know. And so all these emotions that I was feeling from abandonment, and now, you know, 32, 33 years old, like, I got nowhere to be. No one cares. Like, my phone's not ringing. No one, I could just disappear now. No one would miss me. So I considered that. I considered just disappearing, you know. But it was my daughter's birthday. This is where I get fucked up, you know. So excuse me if you're going to give me shit for fucking crying. Well, fucking, you know, you fuck you, you know. But my daughter, it was her birthday in 3 days' time, you know, and I never missed her birthday. I missed a lot of major things in her life, but never her birthday, 18th of August. So I slept in my car, and I just fucking, you know, went back to the farm, and went, you know, my mate's place, and got high to fill the gap. And 18th of August, I go over the hill. You know, I was a gangster. You know, you don't go to fucking the warehouse by fucking Toy World or anything. You know, you give them money. Money, you know. So I get to her place, and I knock on the door, and my daughter comes to the door, and she gives me a big hug, and she says, "Hey, Dad, I'm not allowed to let you in." And I'm like, "Why not?" And she goes, "Because Grandma's been looking for you. She's been worried about you. Apparently she's been looking for you for 6 months or so." So my daughter her mum had been in quite violent relationships from time to time, and I was my daughter's hero. If shit got gnarly, she would ring Dad. Dad would show up with some boys, bash whoever, fucking sort it out, you know what I mean? And so she hands me the phone, so I ring Mum. I hear Mum's voice, and she's just like, you know, "We didn't know if you were dead." And Mum started crying, I started crying. My daughter's looking at me like, "Fuck, Dad," you know, like I just felt really fucked up. And if, you know, those of you that have come off methamphetamine, you'll understand, you know. So anyway, I hand my daughter this birthday card, and I still picture it, and it's a white card, and it's in pink and silver glitter writing, "Happy 10th birthday, babe," you know. And she takes it, and it's full of money, and she smiles at me, and she looks at it, and she goes, "Dad, I'm 13. Fuck. And I'm still disappointed in myself for that, you know, like, fuck, I missed 3 years, man. Like, it just, 3 years gone. And so I went in, and we did her birthday, and I said to her mum, "Can I stay the night?" She said, "Yeah, stay the night." And when I woke up, Emma was waking me up, and she goes, "Hey, you got to go." And I'm like, "Well, what's happened?" And she says, "You've been asleep for 3 days, and this isn't good for Corinne." So I rang one of my boys, and he came over in my Commodore, my V8 Commodore, and he picked up my bike, and he took my bike, and I went up north, and I stayed on a mate's farm just north of Auckland, and I stayed there for 3 months. That was that.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was, you know, the loneliest time of my life and the best time of my life. Like that, I needed that loneliness, you know. So I went and I got clean, and I was on a dairy farm, and I will never go vegan because I fucking had to milk those fucking cows. I got shat on. I got pissed on. I'll eat every fucking last one of them if I get the chance. You know what I mean? Yeah, and so in that time, my tattooist stopped in. And I didn't know he knew this guy. And my tattooist didn't know I was there. And he walks in and he's like, oh, what the fuck are you doing here? I says, mate, I'm getting clean, you know, I'm sorting it out. And he says to me, you stay clean for 3 months, I'll teach you how to body pierce and you can manage my tattoo shop in Cuba Street.
Wow.
Right? And so what I preach today is the opposite of addiction's connection and what brings you joy. Find out what brings you joy before the drugs fucked you up. And then go and do that, you know. So I left a circle that had stature, you know. I left a culture that had stature, and I entered another culture that had stature. You know what I mean? Like you go from, you know, the gang world where there's stature and safety and security, into the tattoo world where there's creativity and the same stuff with the added bonus of creativity, and you know, so that they gave me connection. And furthermore, the 3 men that I was working with and the 1 lady that I was working with had all experienced addiction. So they, alcohol and meth, and so they knew what I was going through. So they taught me how to be. I could be creative. It was a fun place to be. The hardest thing for me was learning what I call the art of conversation. So if I can't talk to you about fucking chicks, riding motorbikes or violence, guns, gangs, the fuck are we going to talk about? You know? But I was front to house. I was managing the studio. So, you know, and it was all walks of life would come in here. So I had to learn how to talk to people, you know. So a friend of mine, Tim Hunt, I did his head in. He owns Pacific Tattoo and Otaki. I did his head in, mate, because he's a peace-loving hippie, you know, and fuck, I come in here, the skinhead, fuck, you know, 49 kilos I weighed at the end of it. So I was gaunt, and he thought I was a bomb waiting to go off. But he took time for me. One of the things he did is he wrote a list on a piece of paper, points of conversation, and he taped that under my counter. So if Nis came in, I'd be like, hey bro, and we'd just cut it all and have a chat, and it was all good. If a businessman come in, then I'd go, how are you today?
Oh fuck, I think I'd still do
And
that
what do you
today.
do for a job? You know, and that's how I learned how to talk to the straights of this world. You know what I mean? So that shop was very powerful for me and my well-being. And ultimately, it gave me space to practice being clean and practice not using drugs and practice not being violent and practice, you know, not overreacting to things, because, you know, behavioural change, which is what addiction is, you know, which is what getting clean is, behaviour change. So it takes practice, patience and time. So with time and practice and some patience, because we will relapse and we will fuck it up, the new behaviours trump old behaviours. But you need an environment that will nurture that change. That's what they did for me.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that for a few years, about 6 or 7 years, 8 years, and then I had this nagging fucking thing in my mind. I had to know what I would now call the core why. Like, what's my story? Like, my why? Why?
Yeah.
Did I just walk myself into drugs? Or like, why did that happen to me? So I took myself to Welltech and I studied addictions for 3 years, and I became an addiction counsellor. And I found out my why within the first 6 months of being at Welltech. I found out the enemy, the feeling of not belonging, the sense of not belonging to any structure bigger than you, and the lack of connection was what brought me to abuse substances, you know. Yeah.
And so from there you were just able to stay on the straight and narrow?
Oh, mate, there were lapses. You know, like I'm a fucking rat bag, you know, and I won't say I shit roses. I won't use drugs. You know, there's relapses in all areas of my life. Violence. 8 years ago, I was charged with quite a bad assault, you know. So yeah, there's been relapses along the way. Relapses on meth and relapses on speed and cocaine. I just loved anything that would take me up. So there were numerous relapses, lapses.
Yeah.
But it was just about keeping balance, keeping everything in my life balanced, and yeah.
So when you said before that at that time nobody was giving up meth, but then you hadn't found them because they were in that tattoo shop. Hey, some people that had.
Yeah, so there were 2 alcoholics and a methamphetamine, someone suffering methamphetamine addiction here to get out of Australia all of a sudden and run to New Zealand. So I had him.
Yeah.
But he didn't know anyone, so we didn't know anyone, but we knew we could do this together.
Yeah.
You know?
See, I think the thing for me is when I left Aussie and came back to New Zealand, I hadn't been on drugs in New Zealand, so this was my fresh start.
Yeah.
But then that made me very wary about who I let into my circle.
Environment, right?
Because I was like, fuck, this is my fresh start. What if I meet this person and they open up a door and I don't know if I can say fucking no.
So when I meet someone to this day, I will judge you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know we all go, I don't judge people. Fucking bullshit. We all judge people. And I will judge you. I won't judge you on what you do. I will judge you on whether or not I am safe with you in my mental health.
Fuck yes.
You know, will you affect my mental health negatively if I have a relationship with you? And if I deem you to be unsafe, so we've got a red light, an orange light, a green light, you know, an orange light, yeah, I'm not too sure, but you're a good guy, so we'll hang for a bit until you prove otherwise.
Yeah.
Red light, get the fuck out of my life. I'll be polite, I'll be courteous, you know, but I ain't calling you and I ain't giving you my number, you know. I need to know that you're not going to bring harm to me or my whānau, but my mental health is safe with you.
Yeah.
You know, and I need to keep myself safe. You know, and I'll walk into a church and stand next to the fucking criminal. You know what I mean? It's just, I attract that, but I need to keep myself safe. So that's huge. We're only as good as our pack. So it's your pack. Is your pack going to lift you up and help you succeed?
Yeah.
Or are they going to pull you down and have the opposite effect?
Jeopardise your recovery.
Yeah.
Awesome. What kind of advice would you give to anyone that is travelling down the same road and wanting to try to make a turn like you did? Like we did?
Find yourself some support, man. Like, find yourself some support. Be honest with yourself, first and foremost. I think there's 4, maybe 5 things. Education, nutrition, sleep, and your pack. You know, look at your pack. You know, are they going to help me succeed here? Or am I going to have to leave this pack? And be honest, man. Because if you sit in the barber seat long enough, you're going to get a haircut, you know. So be honest about that. Find yourself the support. Be very ready to be uncomfortable. But we have to feel discomfort before we feel comfort here, you know. But educate yourself about what you're about to go through. Don't try and wean off, because I've never met anyone that's weaned off methamphetamine. You know, you'll get a new bag, it'll be the good shit and set you on a whole new fucking journey. Don't wean off. Just fucking stop, man. and put yourself somewhere that will allow you to suffer and not ridicule you for it.
Yeah.
We need one person in our lives that we can cry in front of, we can speak our truth in front of. They will call us on our bullshit and we will respect that. Find that person and fucking nail yourself to them. You know? But yeah, I get some help. Get some help. You're only as good as your pack. You know, your environment is really gonna determine anything. But you know, that's me. Like, if I put on my clinician's hat, I would say, do all of that, and when, you know, you're well enough, sit down with a piece of paper and write everything on that piece of paper that brought you joy in your life. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, fuck yeah. Put all of that in. Everything from when you're born until you're now. And now, once you've done that, and take your time with it. Like, take a week, 2 weeks with it, because we want the little things that brought you joy. You know, I had a lady, you know, one of the things that brought her joy the most is she grew up far north and her family had no money, and she would take her brothers and sisters down to the creek to play sometimes, and she would look back and see her mum washing their clothes with a bar of soap and a bucket, and she just felt love, you know. So write everything down that brought you joy, and then look at the age where the drugs really started screwing you up, and then go back and pull 4 things that brought you joy before the drugs fucked you up. Go and do those things. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I didn't go to rehab or anything like that. It was just kind of like what you did. Just go somewhere, change the environment, and just fucking push through every day.
Yeah, and find out what's normal. Because we don't know. We didn't know, eh? You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck's normal? Well, normal's a big bell curve, right? You know, like normal is just like, for me, when people go, yeah, but what's normal, Hop? Well, what's normal is any behaviour's normal until it starts causing discomfort, until it starts bringing harm to your life, and you keep doing it. Then it's not normal. Until that point, it's normal. You know, I mean, truth be known, you know, 87% of people that use drugs don't misuse drugs. It doesn't bring them harm in their lives. You know what I mean? So maybe harm reduction is something that this country needs to look more at. But if it's bringing harm to your life, like we need to learn what normal is. You know, waking up, brushing your teeth, making your bed, having breakfast, all normal things. So routine, structure, discipline.
Oh, awesome. Far out. Just one more question. Any advice for families that have loved ones that are stuck in it? Because that's something I get asked all the time.
Yeah. Don't ridicule, eh? You know, and don't put your own unrealistic expectations on your significant other. So if they're trying to get clean, just remember they're practicing this. You know, don't put all these expectations on them, because that's what's going to help them fail. So no expectations. Don't enable them. You know, give them food, don't give them money, but don't give them heaps of food either, so that they don't have to shop. You know, keep an open door policy, but no drugs in the house. You know, find out what enabling looks like, and try not to enable them. Sometimes, and I know this is going to sound harsh, because we don't all have to hit a rock bottom, but sometimes you will save your loved one just before they're about to bounce off the rock bottom and come back up. You will go in and rescue them. Don't do that. You know, we need to suffer. You know, we need to hit every ugly branch on the way down so that we don't go back up. You know, so I guess, you know, for loved ones, go and get you help. you know, before you get your loved one help. Go and get you help, because you're going to need some education here on how to get your son or daughter out of the shit, or your husband or your wife, your partner, out of the shit. So go and get yourself help and then get them help. Yeah.
Wow, awesome. Before we finish, is there anything else you want to share?
No, I just look, get off that shit, guys. Hey, you know, it's train to nowhere. You know, it ages your insides to such a degree that you know, you're aging yourself. You know, your tamariki needs you, your whānau needs you. It's really doable. That first week that you're feeling when you try to get off meth is actually the worst week. So you get off, you go relapse after that first week or two. Well, you've just done the hard yards, mate. You know, carry on. You know, and yeah, there's a thing called pause, post-acute withdrawal. And just about all of my clients fall over on it, you know. Post-acute withdrawal means that everything you felt that first 1 to 3 weeks of stopping, you're going to feel a lot of that again in 3 months' time. So in 3 months' time, your brain's going to be the most organic state that it's ever been in. You know, the plasticity of the brain, it'll just come back in. Things will start firing again. And the Feelers wrote a song about it. I'm not addicted anymore. I feel so good. I'll have some more. That's post-acute withdrawal. And it happens at 3 months. You know, your brain's at its most level, and then you start having dreams that trigger you, nightmares, your traumas start triggering you. You start... your mood swings come back, your depression comes back, and you're like, all of the shit is coming back. So we go back and use. Now that happens at 3 months, it happens at 9 months. So prepare yourself for that. The way out of that is put on your phone post-acute withdrawal at 2 months. When 2 months hits, your alarm will go off, it'll warn you off it, and you keep yourself in check. How am I feeling? Am I sleeping? How are my moods? Ask your partner, how are my moods? Yeah. You know, am I, heading down that way? Now we need to pick our game up. We need to start getting active, whether it be sports or creativity. You know, we need to pick it up to get that dopamine firing again to pull us out of pause. You know, but post-acute withdrawal at 3 months and at 9 months. So they're the danger areas. You know, most people you'll find... You know, well, when did you lapse? They'll tell you 3 months. Most people relapse at 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, so it's about mastery. So, you know, practice your art, practice you do your training, whatever rocks your boat, go do it, but keep upping the game. Like us people that suffer addictions, guys, it's consistent work. You know.
We had a question. What if they don't want help but they need it? They love the drug.
So you have to respect their boundaries in my eyes. It's all about boundaries, hey guys? You know what I mean? If you want to go and do drugs, go do drugs, but don't do them around me. You know what I mean? And it's just respecting their boundaries. And if their use is bringing you harm, then maybe you need to ask yourself some questions. And, you know, why am I allowing this person to treat me like this? Why am I allowing myself to put up with this shit? You know, life's all about boundaries, eh? You know, I'm not just going to appear in your lounge and go, right, you're getting clean now. You know, you have to come to me and you have to respect other people's decisions.
And that's hard for a lot of people.
It's very hard. You know, I've got friends that I've had to walk from, they've gone back to it, and it's, hey mate, I can't sit here and watch you do. I've had friends go back to meth after heart attacks, you know, and I'm like, hey bro, I'm out. I can't sit here and watch you kill yourself, you know. It's about respecting their boundaries and just go, hey, you want to do that, that's up to you, but I'm not doing this with you. And I'm not saying make a choice, it's me or them, but it's kind of how it is, you know?
Just one that I'm thinking of is a lot of people ask, why weren't your children enough to pull you out?
Because they're not. You know, and that breaks my fucking heart. But they're not. You know, this drug is such a powerful drug. It just releases so many feel-good chemicals. And, you know, the narcissistic traits that come with this drug tell us that our kids will never leave us. You know, and I'm cleverer than them, and I know, you know. And the sad thing is that they're not enough to pull us out. You know, we got to find out why the person's using drugs. You know, for me it was abandonment, and that abandonment lasted all my life, even after the drugs. I'm 49 years old. I got married a couple of years ago. It took me that long to actually believe that this person isn't going to leave me, that she does love me. So this stuff's, you know, whatever happened to you in childhood is affecting you now, and carries on affecting you until you actively deal with that. You know what I mean? So it's trauma. You know, unfortunately, kids aren't enough to help us stop.
And it's a lot of people can't even conceive that
No.
idea.
I mean, there's rock bottoms. You mentioned rock bottoms. So there's external rock bottoms. Houses, cars, jobs, whānau, gone. They're external rock bottoms that we can come back from. We can buy another car when we get well. We can buy another house or whatever. Kids, they'll come back, you know. The rock bottom you're talking about really is that internal rock bottom where the drugs just aren't fucking working anymore, you know. The thing is, you know, for those of you that are still using, there's one thing I can promise you, is that there's never enough drugs. And right now you'll be laughing at that statement, but there's literally never enough drugs. You know, our central nervous system, that's our brain and our spinal cord and our peripheral nervous system that comes off that controls our body temperature and everything, you know, it's built to do basically two things: to respond to whatever's happening in their environment and to adapt, right? So that's why tolerance. So the more drugs we have, it will respond to the drugs. The minute we consume that drug, our central nervous system will try and bring us back down to our normal, our set point. And our central nervous system has set points for temperature, 36 degrees Celsius. That's why we get too hot, we sweat, we cool down, we get too cold, we shiver, we warm up. Water retention, body weight, all works on a set point. You'll crash diet, you're drinking smoothies, fit into your fucking dress, go to your prom, and then you go back to eat McDonald's the next day, and bang, you're back to that normal weight. That took you 3 months to fucking lose, you know? Set points. So, we also have a set point for emotion. So, you'll say a funny, we'll laugh, back to the set point. Something untoward will happen, we'll feel upset or depressed, back up to the set point, normal. So, when we use a substance, there'll be a spike and we'll get high, and then our central nervous system will respond and start to bring us back down to that set point. Yeah? The more drugs we take, the more our central nervous system will adapt and respond to that substance. Tolerance. So now we need more to get the same high, and then less of a high, and less of a high. Now we're using just to fucking function. You know, there's a simple, good example for stoners. You know, you have a puff of your devil's lettuce in the morning, get stoned, bang, you fucked it for the day now. Now you're not getting stoned for the rest of the day. Had you waited to the end of the day, you'll get rather nicely stoned. But now you've done it in the morning, you ain't getting stoned for the rest of the day because your central nervous system has adapted and responded, and now that's that. So we end up using just to be normal. A waste of fucking time and money, you know? So now we're using just to operate. Now when we stop, the central nervous system goes into withdrawals and it mimics our high. So whatever the effect, say the drug was keeping us thinking sharp, staying awake, now we can't fucking think or get out of bed. You know, was it alcohol? You know, so it helped us be social, relieved anxiety. Now we stop drinking, we've got anxiety and we're antisocial. So whatever it gave you, there's no free lunch. It's thrown back in your face. And there's never going to be enough drugs. The more we have, the more we need. So we're in this fucking treadmill and we're running and we're going nowhere. So if you truly appreciate drugs, stop using them. Get high every now and again and enjoy it. That's what it was meant to be for. See what I mean? So I'm not anti-drugs as such. No. What I'm saying is the way we use drugs is wrong. And people like me and you, Nix, we fucked it for ourselves. You know, so we can't go back to just partaking every now and again. We fucked it. You know what I mean? Because those neuro pathways are set in stone. Like, I haven't ridden a bike since I was 14, but if you come in with a push bike now, I'll jump on it and ride it. It's set there. So as soon as we pick up.
Hard out. I couldn't just fucking have a little...
Nah, well, the thought of it actually grosses me the fuck out, you know? But this is what I'm saying. A drug like methamphetamine is so powerful. There is no control in it. No. You need to have... Some people they can use drugs like they're meant to, you know? You know, ecstasy, for instance, once every 3 months. You're safe to use it in LSD, once every 3 months. After 3 months, your brain's going to return to the normal. You're okay to go. So that's kind of harm reduction at safe use, you know. Methamphetamine, it just disrupts, you know. In order to use drugs, we first need connection. You know, so a good social life, good work life, hobbies, exercise, artistic, whatever. But for some of us, a lot of us, we haven't got that. And so we connect to our substances because we haven't got any other connection. So the opposite of addiction is most definitely connection. You know? And I don't actually buy into the you're an addict forever. You know, I don't actually like the word recovery, you know, because that suggests that you're never recovered. And I believe we recover. I've seen it. I've seen it in you. You've seen it in me. I've got many colleagues and clients that have recovered.
So what word would you use?
I'm getting well. I am well. You know, oh, Hop, how long have you been in recovery? You know, I'm recovered. I've been recovered now for, I would guess, out of the, say, 14 years I've abstained from using substances, I would suggest that I've been recovered from substances for about 8 years. You know, to be fair. You know what I mean? So I just think for us, there's a lot of wording that needs to be changed, a lot of labelling. Because we love labels, especially nowadays. We love labels. Don't label people, man. They're someone that's suffering the effects of addiction at the moment. They're not addicts.
Wow, far out. How insightful.
It's fun.
You
know, and hey, you know, life's fucking good, man. Like, it really is. It's you know, and you might, some people, they worry, you know, oh, when I get clean, or when I, you know, enter recovery, whatever. Hey, at the end of the day, it's your right to call your addiction, what you want to call it, you know. But what, you know, what say I'm angry, or what say I'm sad all the time, or You know, I like being creative, and using methamphetamine helps me be creative. Or, you know, the sex, you know, what's I can't have that sex again that I, you know, like guys, like you will have that all again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't be fooled that it's giving you some special superpower, because it's not. It's actually robbing you. You know, the joy that I felt when I got clean and realised I actually had ADHD was like, yeehaw. So like, I'm naturally on speed. You know, like I naturally have these crazy eyes. Like I don't need substances to be a fucking madman. You know what I mean? Like this is actually natural. You know, when I started using meth, suddenly I could concentrate and I could think and I could work things out. I could sit still. I was that meth user that you would be bouncing off the walls and looking at me going, fuck, he's sitting still, how the fuck, this guy's nuts. You know, but that's what it did for me. Like Ritalin to someone with ADHD. Suddenly, I could, you know, until I used too much and I couldn't, you know, but... So I guess what's it doing for you? You know what I mean? But don't be scared to stop, because all that creativity, that sex you like having, you know, your humour, how active you are, you now know that you're capable of these things. So stop the shit, and you will have that again. You know.
All right, awesome. Was there any more, baby? Oh, I just want to say thank you so much.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me.
Sharing. And we wish you nothing but the best for you.
No, and I wish you nothing but the best. I love what you're doing, man, and just putting it out there, you know, to like, shall we say, the alternative world as well, you know, like, just letting people know that they're not alone, amen.
I don't.
Kia ora, guys.
Thank you so much.